you all. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and welcome back to Inner Speaks. Firstly, I wanted to go ahead and just thank every single person who has watched, shared, commented, and liked the video that I did on Vanessa Bryant gifting Kobe's sister a car and her being accused of disrespecting Kobe's parents. We are at 15,000 views on that video alone, which is just it's crazy to me, okay? It's crazy and it's not crazy. It's crazy because I could have never predicted one of my YouTube videos getting that many views, especially so early on. But then again, it's not crazy because I feel like so many of us felt the loss of Kobe Bryant, and we were just in a place where we wanted to hear something about what was going on with his family, his wife, and children, and how his legacy was going to be handled. And the fact that so many of the comments on that video are just about sharing Kobe memories or expressing condolences, it really just solidifies how important he was to all of us. So I thank you so much again. It means everything to me. So with that being said, today I wanted to make this video just to provide some updates as to what's been going on with Vanessa's legal battle against Los Angeles County. Now, some things mentioned in this video may be a bit triggering to some of you. I'm not going to go into too many specifics, but I do just want to make that disclaimer before we get started. So back in September of 2020, which is 8 months after the crash at this point, Vanessa Bryant sued Los Angeles County for negligence, invasion of privacy, and intentional emotional distress due to sheriff and fire department employees taking unnecessary and unauthorized pictures of victims' remains, including those of Kobe and Gigi, at the site of the helicopter crash. Now, not only did these employees take these pictures for absolutely no reason, they actually shared the images with other people. And when I say other people, I don't just mean people, who worked at the sheriff's department, but they were sharing these images with people who had, nothing to do with law enforcement or the scene investigation at all. Court documents show that up to 28 people eventually saw the graphic images, and keep in mind that the employees who did this, they did not work for the medical examiner's office, okay? They did not take these pictures to analyze the crime scene, which is why they are considered unauthorized. I don't personally understand why you would want to capture images of that scene anyway, but nonetheless, this is the basis for Vanessa's lawsuit. Now, going back to the day of the crash, after Vanessa was made aware of what had happened, she immediately went to the sheriff's department and she begged them to secure the scene as fast as possible to avoid this very thing from happening. Her biggest concern was that paparazzi or some other unauthorized personnel would capture the images for their own personal gain, and the photos would end up in the media. Now, Vanessa was reassured by Sheriff Alex Villanueva that the crash scene would be secured and that no photos would be publicly disseminated, but unfortunately, unauthorized pictures were still taken. Like I mentioned before, not only were the pictures captured unnecessarily, but they were then shared with numerous of other people. And in fact, one of the LA County Fire Department officials who took some of the pictures was seen showing the images around to people in a bar literally just 2 days after the crash. Now, luckily, another patron who was there and who clearly was, just very disturbed and found this official's actions rightly deplorable, sent a complaint of the officer's actions to Los Angeles County. Now, unfortunately, this was not the only instances of these images being shared with other people, because there was another fire department official who allegedly showed the images around to friends at an award gala the following month. Now, after this, media reports of the images being shown, they started to circulate. And once these events were brought to Vanessa's attention, she went ahead and filed her lawsuit. Now, there hasn't been an official trial just yet. So far, the trial date has been set for July 18th, but there have been multiple pretrial hearings concerning what evidence would be introduced, which parties would be disposed, and to determine if a trial would even take place. So I'm going to go ahead and just give some of the updates and things that went on in a few of these hearings. In one hearing, LA County sought to have Vanessa Bryant's mental health records ordered in since Vanessa was suing for emotional distress. Now, they argued that the records would show that the grief and distress that Vanessa claimed to be dealing with was not a result of the photos being taken and potentially being publicly disseminated, but rather from, the accident itself. Now, Vanessa's attorneys, they did argue that this was a bullying tactic that was forced to get Vanessa to settle and that the records should not be allowed. But ultimately, LA County won and they were able to gain access to the records. Now, in another deposition, Vanessa's attorneys actually had a victory because they won having Sheriff Villanueva deposed, which just means that he was forced to answer questions under oath. Once under oath, Villanueva did acknowledge that he did eventually hear of the unauthorized photos being taken, but that he had already ordered them to be destroyed by the employees more than a month before Vanessa sued the county. And really quickly, from what I have gathered, this actually is something that Vanessa's attorneys say should have never happened. Once Villanueva was made aware of these photos being taken, by unauthorized personnel, he was supposed to follow the chain of command and actually have these images sequestered instead of just completely destroying the evidence. So this is something else that Vanessa's attorneys are using as evidence in Vanessa's lawsuit that, the people involved in this entire situation were just not up to par for handling this scene. Now, in another previous pretrial hearing, Los Angeles County did make an attempt to have Vanessa undergo a psychiatric evaluation to further prove her claims of emotional distress, which they argued was just standard, for anyone who was claiming to be victims of emotional distress. The judge, however, did deny this due to it being brought on past the deadline. So, as you can tell, there has been a lot of back and forth with both parties involved. Los Angeles County insists that Vanessa has no right to sue due to the fact that the images taken were never publicly shared and that her claims that the images may one day appear online are baseless. Vanessa, on the other hand, has been quoted as saying that she is out to make an example of the parties involved and to have them held accountable for the additional distress that they caused her and her family when the images were taken. Now, Vanessa actually won the right to publicly release the names of the deputies who have been named in this suit after LA County unsuccessfully tried to keep their identities sealed. They were claiming that by releasing their identities, they would have unnecessary hate and emotional distress come upon them by the public. But not surprisingly, this did not hold up. And I'm not going to read all of this information on here because some parts, I'm just going to be honest, they are disturbing, but you can pause the video and read the information if you would like to. I do want to point out that in these court transcripts, one of the officers who took some of the photos actually acknowledges that he had no investigative purpose for having the photos and that it was inappropriate for him to have them. Now, of course, this is all being said after he shared the images with other people, including to a friend that he played video games with. Yeah, it is a lot in here, I'm telling you. But the overall theme is that these people who took these pictures are just disgusting. And one of them even made a joke about the remains before showing them to their niece. Who does that? I just will never understand how someone can lack that much just compassion and empathy for someone else. I just don't understand it. Now, these images are all on Vanessa's Instagram, by the way, if you want to go and read the rest of them. I know that her purpose for uploading all of this was to highlight just how big of a failure LA County was when it came to securing this scene and, just having decent human beings working the crash. And I do want to say, I'm not saying that this includes every single person who was there that day, because I am sure that there were plenty of responders and other authorized personnel who were supposed to be there who did do their job meticulously and by the book. I'm specifically talking about the people who abused their power, who abused their privilege to be in such a delicate situation. I mean, shame on those people. So, where does that all leave us today? Well, in February of this year, the judge on the case ordered that both parties again try to reach a settlement instead of taking this issue to trial. Now, this has been something that the judge has been asking for a while. And keep in mind that settlement, it doesn't specifically mean money. The judge just wants both parties to come to a resolution of some sort. So that may entail damages, it may not. It may also include, certain people being fired or not being allowed to work in certain environments ever again, or just facing additional charges. We don't know. What we do know is that whatever has been offered up by both parties, neither one of them agree with the terms. But the judge has been asking for this because he feels that the best outcome that's going to come, from a trial anyway, is Vanessa just being awarded punitive damages, which for someone who was already wealthy really isn't much. Now, an article from LA Times says that Bryant so far has refused to settle in her quest for accountability after she said the county defendants invaded her privacy with their conduct. In her lawsuit, she said she seeks damages in an amount to be proven at trial, as well as punitive damages to punish the deputy defendants and make an example out of them. The article then goes on to say that the judge questions if this monetary win would even be worth a trial when not only has a law been signed into legislation, making it now illegal for first responders to take pictures of deceased people at the scene of an accident or crime, but also because a trial will likely force parties to relive and speak on the tragic accident, and it just doesn't stand to benefit the emotional health of the relatives of the victims. Now, as of April this year, both parties returned again to the judge, having still not reached an agreement on how to proceed. So it's looking like a trial may actually happen. Sources say that while a resolution has still not been agreed upon, a mediator will continue to work with both parties to see if one can be reached in the future. So that's all of the court and legal updates so far. Of course, you can look up this information online because I couldn't include every single thing that's happened. There has been a lot of back and forth, but these are what I feel are the most important points so far. So what do you all think? Should Vanessa go ahead and settle the case for a set amount of damages, or should she proceed to trial? And I don't think there are really any right or wrong answers in this situation. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I can't imagine having to deal with such a traumatic loss and deal with this legal BS all while I'm trying to grieve and heal. Obviously, money is not an issue for her in this case. I just question if a trial is the answer. Is it worth going through all of those gruesome details in front of a jury and having to mentally go back to such a terrible time? How will this affect Vanessa and her children and the Bryant family? Of course, she's still grieving, and obviously that pain from her loss will be forever, but is a trial worth her mental health? But then on the other hand, if I lost my husband and child in just such a terrible way, and the people that I'm entrusting to secure this scene and act with just human decency and dignity instead act in such a disgusting and inhumane way, I'd want to take it as far as I could as well, especially if I had the resources to do so. So I don't know. Where do you all stand with all of this? I am happy that the new law was put into effect, and I do think that her refusing to settle years ago when she first brought all of this up is a testament to her wanting to hold these people accountable. But these are just my thoughts. Again, I support her either way because this should have never happened in the first place. I am sending prayers and healing and love to everyone that has been affected by this major loss of life. The Inner Speaks quote of the day is actually from one of my favorite verses. It's in Romans 8:18, and it says, "The pain that you have been feeling cannot compare to the joy that is yet to come." You all, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and comment down below how you feel about this entire situation, and feel free to leave any other suggestions of anything that you would like me to speak on. Thank you again, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.